Lift for raving, pro lift for raving.
I'll use a different word.
Hi, my name is Hans Peter Meyer, and today I'm talking with Sean Hoyne. Sean is the brewmaster, co-owner of Hoyne Brewing Company in Victoria, is that right?
That's right.
And how long have you been or how old is Hoyne?
Hoyne Brewery is 1 year old right now. I've been a professional brewmaster in Victoria for about 24 years, and about a year ago I decided to open up our own brewery. And so my wife and I have opened up the Hoyne Brewing Company.
And Hoyne is like part of a kind of a beer renaissance here or something, or beer explosion happening on Vancouver Island. Most of the beers in this cooler here at the Courtenay Cascadia Liquor store are Vancouver Island beer. Why the explosion of craft beer on Vancouver Island?
Well, Vancouver Island has been becoming more and more famous for the quality and the number of craft beers that we're making. We have an absolute plethora of craft breweries in both Victoria and up island. And why is it working? It's working because people are catching on to the idea that beer is best local and fresh.
But is there better water here? Are we growing hops here? Why here?
Why here? We do have fantastic water. There are some hops grown in the region, but it's largely because this is a movement that started 25 years or so ago, and it's been gaining steam ever since. People at that time were used to drinking very bland, tasteless, mass-produced beer.
I mean, I stopped drinking beer. It was boring beer. I had basically the only beer I was drinking, which was very rare, was Czech or German Pilsners.
Right.
That was it.
Right. And then along came a couple guys with the great idea of putting together craft breweries, small microbreweries, and those beers gained in popularity. We built the Swans Brewery back in 1989. I have been involved in the industry since then, and there are a whole bunch of different brew pubs and microbreweries sprouted up, and people began trying these beers and enjoying them, and enjoying not just that they're made locally, but also enjoying the wide variety of styles and flavors that reminded them of great beers that were available worldwide.
Oh, yeah? Well, I mean, I'm running across pumpkin beer, and like a Douglas fir needle flavored beer. Like this just seems kind of weird to me.
The boundaries have been stretched. There is also a great movement towards some very traditional styles. One of them being
we're going to talk about two beers here. One that Sean makes, and then this is kind of strange too, is a competitor's beer. So let's start with your own. So we got the Hoyne Pilsner. Tell me about it.
The Hoyne Pilsner is a return to the way Pilsners have traditionally been made. Traditionally, Pilsner was made in Pilsen, Czechoslovakia, using beautiful water from the Pilsen River, using malted barleys from the region, using Czech Saaz hops, maybe some German hops. But then the big breweries started to make what they called Pilsner, which was really not anything like a traditional Eastern European style Pilsner. And so with this beer, I've decided to return back to the way true Pilsners were made in Eastern Europe. And it is an effort to rekindle the great name of Pilsner. And in so doing, I have used malted barleys from Europe. I use some German hops and some Czech hops and a very authentic Pilsner yeast strain from Eastern Europe as well. And so and people are commenting on it. People are saying, "Oh, this reminds me of a beer that I had when I traveled to Europe," and they enjoy it. And so this is a return to a traditional brewing style, which you mentioned Renaissance a little while ago, and that's exactly what this is.
Okay.
It used to be that breweries, there were little breweries in every little town and village. You'd have a brewery, a bakery, a brothel, a butcher, and we're getting back to the way it used to be, where every little town has a selection of its own fresh local beers.
Well, now you're going to talk about an IPA. Now I've discovered in my discovery or rediscovery of beer, it's been IPA. So tell me about this beer, where it comes from, and why you're talking about somebody else's product.
Right. Well, I've selected this beer as a fine example of an IPA. It's called Fat Tug, and this is a beer made by the Driftwood Brewing Company.
They're also in Victoria?
They are. We're in very close proximity to each other. We're good friends. And I've selected this beer as one to talk about because they and I share very similar values in our brewing process and in the integrity that we bring to the craft of brewing. And so we both believe that brewing beer is a craft that is to be honored, and it's to be taken seriously. And we go to great lengths and great expense to make the best beers that we can possibly make. And this Fat Tug IPA is a fine example of a very flavorful IPA. And it's a very drinkable, flavorful IPA, and I recommend it to anybody who likes nice hoppy beers.
Right. Well, we had a bit of a wine tasting or a beer tasting. Wash my mouth out with beer here. We had a bit of a beer tasting the other night, and there were several IPAs, and Fat Tug was the one that people really liked, for sure.
Right.
So tonight, you and Chantal, you're up here to do a beer pairing with Chef Aaron Rail at Avenue Bistro in Comox. I ran across beer pairings probably a couple of years ago, thought it was a weird idea. Then I went to one at the Waverly last year and had my eyes opened. What's with the beer pairing stuff?
Beer pairing is becoming a more popular event where a brewmaster from a particular brewery shows up to a restaurant. We've collaborated with the chef, and in this case, very fine executive chef Aaron Rail, to concoct a beautiful 5-course menu. Each of the course is brought together with one of our beers, and so what we'll do is we'll pour the beer that best accompanies that particular dish, and Aaron will talk about the dish, I'll talk about the beer, and it's becoming a very popular thing to do because beer goes so well with food, and really it challenges the position that wine has held for many generations. And because of the great variety in the different styles of beer that we can make, it suits well to different styles of food. So you can have super spicy food that goes well with an IPA, for example, or a nice beef dish that goes well with our dark matter, a nice dark beer. And so there are these beautiful pairing opportunities that exist, and we're exploring them, and we're having fun doing so.
Well, I'm looking forward to having some fun with food and beer tonight. Thank you very much for coming up here and being part of this. And I hope you've learned something about beer. It's certainly been quite an experience for me recently, discovering this explosion of beer on Vancouver Island. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you for watching.